Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're doing a top 10. Topic of the top 10, top 10 live music entrances in wrestling. And that's a lot to say, which, as you can probably see the thumbnail, simplified it. Basically what this is my 10 favorite entrance themes that were played live by the band. For this, I'm not going to include any of the national anthem or America the Beautiful singing, because if I did that, then this would only be that. Also, I limited bands to one performance if they've had multiple appearances. That way we get a little bit of a variety. With that being said, this comes to us as a suggestion from my cousin John. John, you know I love you like a brother. That being said, let's jump right into this. Number 10, from WrestleMania 34, Nita Strauss playing Shinsuke Nakamura out to the ring. Now, I think we can all agree that Shinsuke Nakamura has one of the greatest theme songs in wrestling right now. It's instantly noticeable. It's great. It fits him. And he's had a couple different times where he's been played out. There was a violinist that played him out in NXT. This, to me, was awesome. Because Nita Strauss, if you're not familiar with her, she was the guitarist for Alice Cooper and has done some solo work herself. But she's an amazing guitarist, and she basically started off with a solo that went right into Nakamura's theme. This is great, a great entrance for a great wrestler. Going from that, our number 9. From all the way back at WrestleMania 11, Salt and Peppa doing What a Man for Lawrence Taylor. A lot of people look at this as one of the low points in wrestling history, one of the least popular main events for WrestleMania. However, I think it did what it was supposed to do. It brought a lot of eyes to the company that weren't normally going to watch it, with Lawrence Taylor, one of the biggest sports stars of the time. Couple that with Salt and Peppa, who were massive at this time. They were major stars, and this is one of their biggest songs, probably only behind Push It or Let's Talk About Sex, but this was them at their height, playing out Lawrence Taylor, who at the time was an all-pro linebacker and went on to become a Hall of Fame player. Just a great entrance song. It sounded great, hence why it's on my list. I'll go from that to number 8. From WrestleMania 14, Chris Warren and the DX Band playing the D-Generation X theme song for Shawn Michaels. How can you go wrong with one of the most iconic theme songs in wrestling history, the DX theme song? And I could see where a lot of people thought it was a Rage Against the Machine ripoff. I mean, they had a very similar style. This, to me, is one of the pivotal moments in WWE history, WrestleMania 14. The official changing of the guard, the official start of the Stone Cold Steve Austin era. With that on the way out, Shawn Michaels gets one more classic entrance to be what would be his last match in 4 years. This was just great, just a great theme song. Fantastic live version of it. It was awesome. I'll go from that, our number 7. And I'm going to say WrestleMania a lot because it's happened a lot at WrestleMania. From WrestleMania 22, POD playing Booyaka Booyaka for Rey Mysterio. And I know, just saying it, it sounds ridiculous. You gotta actually sing it. You have to sing the Booyaka Booyaka for it to make sense. And it probably sounded terrible, even that. But this is great. POD is one of those bands that kind of gets lumped in the quote-unquote new metal generation. But they were fantastic. I mean, they had that new metal sound, but it was very much in a different vibe than, let's say, a Korn or a Limp Biscuit would be. This had a more Latino vibe to it, a Latino flavor, which worked perfectly with Rey Mysterio. Also, from what I understand, and I haven't done super amount of research into it, POD was also hyper-religious, which those themes played into their songs, which made it awesome. I thought this was a great song, a great entrances. Rey Mysterio has a great headdress on and everything. I love this song. I love this entrance, hence why it's up on the list. Now, number 6. Coming to us from NXT Brooklyn 3, Code Orange and Brendan Garone from Incendiary, who was the original singers of the song, singing Aleister Black's theme song. Aleister's presentation there, and even his current presentation in AEW as Malachi Black, even go back to his Tommy End days, he knew how to get your attention. And this was kind of like an Undertaker type entrance. I mean, the visuals of it, the spookiness, him rising up, the music itself fits so perfectly. This was a great version of it. Code Orange is a fantastic band. Incendiary is a great band as well. So this was just great. I really enjoyed this. I love Aleister / Malachi Black. I think he's an awesome wrestler. And this was one of his best entrances, in my opinion. I'd like to see them try and do something like this current day in AEW. I think it would be really cool, especially considering that Brody King is the lead singer of a band, so he could bring out his band to do it. I think it would be awesome. Going from that, our number 5. From WrestleMania 19, Limp Biscuit. And keep rolling. We keep rolling for The Undertaker. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Matter of fact, if we're going to talk about Limp Biscuit, I got to put a red hat on backwards. Limp Biscuit kind of felt lambasted after this had happened. I mean, they fell out of favor for a number of years. They're starting to come back around. People are coming around to them. But back then, they were absolutely one of the biggest bands in the world. I mean, there was Limp Bizkit, Korn was obviously huge, Linkin Park, and these were bands that were doing pop star numbers and being on TRL every week. This was during the American Badass era of The Undertaker, which a lot of people don't really love, but this was great. Who doesn't like Rollin' as a song? I rather enjoyed it, hence why it's on my list. Now, I'm taking this off because it's kind of tight, as you can see. I haven't worn it in a while, and it's a flex fit, so the flex is kind of, not as stretchy as it once was, but it is an awesome hat. I love this hat. Anyway, going from that, our number 4. From WrestleMania 21, Motorhead. And they played out Triple H. Obviously, there were multiple times that Motorhead has played Triple H to the ring. To me, this, I think, was the biggest cross-section of their best song for him, with his height of his popularity, his height of his career. I really enjoyed this. This put on such a great performance by one of the legendary heavy metal bands of all time. I have a question for you. Who would win in a wrestling match? Lemmy or God? Trick question. Lemmy is God. That's obviously from the classic movie Airheads, which if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's hilarious. Motorhead, one of the classic bands of all time, definitely deserved to be on my list. Going from that, our number 3. From WrestleMania 32, Snoop Dogg with a remix of Sasha Banks' theme song and Walking Her to the Ring. This was one of those things that was inevitable. As soon as you heard that Snoop and Sasha Banks were related, you knew at some point he was going to sing her out to the ring, because Snoop is such a big lover of wrestling. I mean, obviously he even got involved in WrestleMania this year. This was just fantastic. Who doesn't love Snoop Dogg? He's one of the most beloved performing artists in any genre of all time, and arguably the most beloved rapper of all time. Just another fantastic song, and one of the ones that probably was a no-brainer. That's why it's here. Now going from that, our number 2. From WrestleMania 29, Living Color singing Cult of Personality for CM Punk. If there was one wrestler that was tied to a outside theme song more than CM Punk, I couldn't name them. He adopted Cult of Personality originally in Ring of Honor, and then on his comeback and Money in the Bank in WWE to be his theme song, and his theme songs in both instances prior to that, the Killswitch Engage song in WWE and the AFI song in Ring of Honor, and they even had Slayer for a little bit of Ring of Honor, were all fantastic. But Living Color, Cult of Personality fits with CM Punk so perfectly. I mean, to this day, if it comes up on Spotify when I'm listening, I automatically think of CM Punk, because he's so entwined with the song now, and it's so ingrained in us in some of the biggest moments in the last decade and a half in wrestling. Just a fantastic song from a fantastic band that's highly underrated. You never hear Living Color brought up as one of the greatest bands of all time, but they were fantastic. They kind of got lumped into the hair metal scene, but they're so much more than just a hair metal band, and that's not a knock to the hair metal bands. There's a lot of them I love. I love Poison, I love Motley Crue, Rat, there's some Warrant songs I like, some Whitesnake songs I like. Living Color kind of got lumped into that and kind of faded away when grunge came into popularity. They never really were that style. They had a couple songs that were like that, like Glamour Boys was one like that, but the band themselves were eclectic. They had a bunch of different styles. They were more akin to a punk band almost, in my opinion. I love Living Color. hence why they're up on my list. Now, before I get to number 1, I do a thing here on my top 10s called the best of the rest, basically things that were considered for this but didn't quite make it. First up, from WrestleMania 30, Mark Crozer singing the Bray Wyatt theme song. This song goes down in history as one of the great theme songs of all time. Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family. It's so creepy and so atmospheric, and it fit his vibe so well. I couldn't see any other wrestler coming out to this, and vice versa. I couldn't hear this song without it being attached to Bray Wyatt. Again, much like the CM Punk Living Color synergy, this song just feels like Bray Wyatt. Just a great song, was considered but didn't quite make the list. Now, last but not least on the best of the rest, from WrestleMania 35, Joan Jett for Ronda Rousey. Joan Jett's bad reputation's long been Ronda Rousey's theme song, was her theme song even in UFC. So seeing it here with Joan Jett, an absolute legend, who I don't think is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is a real shame because Joan Jett was amazing. I mean, if you go from everything she's done, from the Runaways to her solo career, to the influence that she's had on music itself, just a fantastic song by one of the great punk singers of all time, one of the great singers of the 80s, just an amazing person, an amazing personality. I love Joan Jett. I mean, this song is amazing. I love Crimson and Clover. Obviously, I love rock and roll. I love the stuff she did with Runaways. I mean, she was great, and she still is. To this day, she's putting out great music. Fantastic song. Didn't quite make the list, though. Now, before I get to number 1, let's smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. If you see where it says join, that's how you become a channel member. It would definitely help out if you'd like to do that. With all that being said, our number 1 musical performance from AEW Double or Nothing 2022, Rancid doing Ruby Soho. Rancid is absolutely one of my favorite bands of all time. If I could sound like any band and make music, it would probably be Rancid. That's how much I love them. They're right up there towards the top for me. I love them since the very first time I've heard them. And knowing the story that this came with when Ruby was coming over to AEW or leaving WWE and looking for a name, she went on a podcast with Lars Frederiksen from Rancid, and they were going to troubleshoot names for her, and the first thing that Lars said, well, why don't you just take Ruby Soho? And if you haven't seen that video, oh my god, you have to check it out, because you have to see the pure joy that comes over Ruby Soho's face when Lars Frederiksen basically tells her, use our song. We'll get it cleared for you. Use that for your name. She is so overjoyed in that moment, and it's so perfect. It's such a great song by, in my opinion, the best punk band of all time and one of my favorite bands of all time. I put them right up there with bands like Alice in Chains is up there for me. Slipknot's one of my favorite bands of all time. Rancid definitely has to be in that mix. You have to add some rap groups in there like Cypress Hill and Wu-Tang Clan. They're in the mix for some of my favorites of all time. But they're just an amazing band, and their love of pro wrestling can't be understated. Ruby Soho's such a great wrestler. I love watching her so much and always have. She's probably one of my favorite women wrestlers of all time. Just a fantastic song, fantastic wrestler. With that being said, if you think I put something too high, put something too low, left a song or appearance or entrance off the list altogether, let me know down here in the comments. Again, smash the like button, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you made it all the way to the end, let me know what your favorite musical performance was. Hit me up down in the comments with your favorite musical entrance in wrestling. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another Top 10.